subscribe.
In creative arts therapy, especially with teens and tweens, healing rarely starts with words. It starts with waiting, with gesture, with a kind of quiet that hums just before something begins. Miles Davis understood that. In his composition, One and One, the musicians play as if they're waiting for the room to trust them. Each note feels like an invitation, not a statement, but a pulse. You can join when you're ready. So that's where we began, not with talking, but with listening. Not with answers, but with color. I told my patients, don't draw what you see. Draw how the music moves through you. The colors started to flow. At first, it was hesitant, scratchy lines, awkward shapes. But soon something shifted. They weren't drawing objects, they were drawing rhythm. The blue curve followed the bass line. A jagged red mark hit right on the snare. One teen pressed so hard that her pastel broke, and she laughed, saying, "That part was too loud." One patient reported, "It's like the music's talking to my hand." Another whispered, "I can feel my picture moving." That's when I realized they weren't just listening, they were in it. Each drawing was a map of presence, an emotional seismograph, a visual groove. When One and One faded, the silence didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a doorway. I asked, what would it sound like if we played these drawings? So we did. We brought out real percussion instruments, a bass, and guitars. No one led, no one followed. The groove found its own direction. At first, it was chaos, rhythms bumping into each other, tempos colliding. But slowly, something clicked. They started listening, not to the song, but to each other. The room began to breathe in time. One teen said, "I played the blue line." Another said, "This was the sound of not being scared anymore." That's what happens when rhythm becomes relationship. When me starts to sound like us. A community music improvisation. Miles Davis never filled the space just because it was empty. He trusted the pauses. He knew silence was part of the song. That's how I try to work in therapy. I don't rush the groove. I hold it steady. Even when a patient falls off beat, I keep the time softly until they're ready to rejoin. Miles teaches that healing isn't a crescendo. It's a return, a re-entry, a willingness to listen for the next note, even when you're not sure it will arrive. At the end, we laid the drawings across the floor, a collage of grooves, a visual chorus. They weren't tidy, they weren't meant to be, but they were true. One teen pointed to the center of her page, a whirl of purple, black, and orange, and said, "That's the part when I stopped trying to get it right." Another patient looked at his page, smiled, and said, "I think this one sounds like us." That's what One and One becomes for us. Not a song about solos, but a song about listening, about learning how to keep a groove together, even when everyone's playing something different. If you've ever felt offbeat, out of sync, unsure how to begin again, remember, the groove never leaves you. It waits, quiet as a line of color before it moves. Have you ever experienced this? Leave any thoughts in the comment section below. Hello, this is Enrico, licensed creative arts therapist, New York State.
Right.